Welcome to Lost Girl Therapy. If you've ever experienced the sensation of feeling like you don't have the right to your own emotions, let's talk about it. If you are somebody who grew up with anxious attachment, disorganized attachment, a narcissistic parent, narcissistic abuse, any version of abuse, you might know the sensation that I'm talking about. It's where we experience emotional distress, and then over time, as we sit in that really uncomfortable position, we begin to move into the mindset that says, I don't know if I have the right to my own feelings. This is incredibly common. It is not necessarily that we're negating our own emotions because we want to. It is because we want to feel emotionally safe. If you had a attachment style like anxious or disorganized, if you were raised by a narcissist, you might know the habit of attuning your emotions to somebody else in order to feel safe. And what I mean by that is we learn how to create emotional safety with someone else by taking on what they feel or think or experience in a situation, and we then negate our own feelings. We don't do this on a super conscious level early on. It's really subconscious, especially in childhood. We kind of just learn to say like, you know what, it keeps the peace if I agree with someone, or I feel safer, I feel more grounded, I feel like it's just easier for me if I suppress my own feelings, if I negate my own feelings, if I simply eliminate them from the equation and I simply assume what this other person feels. This other person being the individual that I have anchored to or I have attuned to for safety. The reason it becomes a problem is when we are in conflict with that person, it is incredibly challenging to stay in the space of owning your emotions and saying, I have every single right to feel this. You might experience the sensation of kind of like waffling back and forth and feeling almost, I experience it as a sense of like indignant. Like, of course I'm entitled to feel these feelings, followed by like, I actually don't know if I can feel these feelings. Maybe I am in the wrong. And so we go through this whirlwind where it's like, I don't know which way is up, and it really depends on the moment. So what I like to do when it comes to finding emotional stability within myself, especially if I'm in conflict with someone, is to completely distance first to get a read on my nervous system. The reason being that when we use other people as our emotional anchors, we never really spend enough time checking in on ourselves. Remember that we suppress, remember that we neglect, remember that we dismiss our emotional well-being in order to put others first. Physical distance, mental and emotional distance is something that allows us to then check in and say like, okay, where am I at? Where am I at? What am I experiencing? What are the waves in the processing that I'm going through? And where can I come into harmony? This is something that I do through journaling. You could do it through meditation. You could do it through taking a walk. Anything that really allows you to connect back into your nervous system. It doesn't mean that you're not going to feel your feelings. You are. You're going to feel anger. You're going to feel sadness. You're going to feel frustration. It just means that you are allowing yourself to process separately from the person that you are in conflict with. When you then approach the person that you are in conflict with, you can come from a state not necessarily of defensiveness, not that state of saying like, I have to prove my emotions to you, because that's a very common thing that we experience with disorganized and anxious attachment, especially if you experienced emotional invalidation as a kid. You might know that sensation of feeling like you need to kind of really go all out with your emotions in order to be heard and understood. Because in childhood, if you had to have crying fits, if you had to scream at the top of your lungs, if you needed to get to a point of such emotional distress that you were very clearly visibly upset because mom and dad didn't pay attention to you before that, you'll know the sensation of what it feels like to need to be highly emotional. And we almost push our feelings out. We say like, we come in real hot with them. And we're used to being defensive because we have a lot of history that shows that, yeah, we needed to be defensive in order to receive care, be heard, or have our emotions be understood. When you attune to yourself, before you even talk to a partner, before you talk to a person you're in conflict with, before you even approach someone who has upset you, attuning to yourself allows you to lower that defensiveness. It allows you to stay in the space of empowerment and own your emotions. We're essentially eliminating that narrative that says, do I have the right to these feelings or do I not? By eliminating that, you can stay in the space of saying, these are my feelings, this is how I feel, we can talk about it, but I will not switch up my emotional response to yours in order to create emotional compatibility, safety, or peace and resolution in this.